From the High Definition Production Center of Troy University's Broadcast and Digital Network and Troy campuses around the world, this is Troy TrojanVision Weekly.
Hello and welcome to Troy TrojanVision Weekly. I'm your host, Aaron Taylor. Thursday morning, college students from all of Alabama's public colleges and universities converged on the State House steps to rally for better funding for higher education. Haley Greathouse has the details from our Montgomery News Bureau.
1/3 is the chant that was heard on the steps of the Alabama State House this morning, and is the same chant that has been ringing on this day for 19 years.
Well, every year, students from our colleges and universities always come to support higher education funding. And it is so important, and this year we have more money in education than we've had since 2008.
Higher Education Day is a day when rivalries are dropped in favor of a common goal: 1/3 of Alabama's funding.
One thing we know for sure is that as students come up here, they become more aware and more involved in the process, and that's part of the whole thing. It's an educational experience for them because they realize that democracy really does require action.
Thousands of students come here to the State House steps to rally for higher education funding. But what happens when they've left and gone back to their respective schools?
We've got advocacy days that we'll have for individual student participation to come back and meet with their legislators and talk to them about the importance of higher education. We'll also have opportunities for them to come and participate in communication exercises.
There's also another way that students can get involved a little closer to home.
You know your legislature if you don't get to know them, and get to know them the fact that you call and say, let me tell you how important higher ed is, not just to me and my family and my brothers and sisters behind me, but to future generation and the growth of the state.
A lot of people don't even know who their representative or their senator is. They need to learn that. And so they need to know who to talk to and put pressure on them to make sure that there's adequate funding for higher education.
1/3 has not yet been reached, but every year students come closer to the goal.
Since I've been governor, we've increased higher education share, a small percentage point, but we've increased it every year since I've been governor in the budget that I submitted, and it went through. And we've done the same thing this year.
Contact information for your legislator can be found online. In Montgomery, Haley Greathouse, Troy TrojanVision News.
And among the hundreds of students in attendance at the rally were 205 Cardinal-clad Trojans doing their part to support both higher education and the school they love. Deborah Bogart has more from our Montgomery News Bureau.
A parade, music blaring, people cheering and chanting are all ingredients for a rally. And that's exactly what happened Thursday afternoon on the State House steps as Troy students were some of the hundreds gathered contesting for Higher Education Day.
So today is Higher Education Day, which is where university students from across the state of Alabama come and we rally for more money for higher education.
I think it's very important for all of us to come out because it not only affects one person, but it affects all of us, all the public universities of Alabama. So if we want our voices heard, then we have to come out here and talk about it.
It's a cold, windy day here at the State House, but for some Troy University students that came out and braved the conditions, they hope it brings a wind of change for funding public universities.
I really want legislators today to realize just how important higher education is. So many people kind of put it on the back burner and don't really realize what higher education does. But later on today, you'll hear more statistics, and you see statistics here actually at the actual rally that really talk about the impact that higher education has on the state of Alabama and the United States as a whole.
We're definitely doing our part with communicating, and I think that our legislature should be out here and communicating with us and really have an understanding of really what we want, and that we are students that have needs.
Troy University SGA President Heath Barton spoke on behalf of acquiring more financial support for secondary education, while Alabama Public University students chanted the words 1/3 again and again, lobbying to the legislature inside for more money.
I just want them to hear our voices, let them know that we're very serious about wanting this 1/3 funding from them.
Right now it's at 12%, so we need 33% of the Education Trust Fund.
Troy University was among 14 public universities represented at Higher Education Day. In Montgomery, Deborah Bogart, Troy TrojanVision News.
Troy University students had the chance to elect new SGA officers this week, but before they did, the candidates had a chance to debate and share their platforms. Sarah Singletary has the details.
Candidates running for executive positions in Troy University's Student Government Association had another chance to speak about their platforms in Monday night's debate. All of the candidates, with the exception of the 2 presidential candidates, gave 2-minute speeches about their platforms. Both presidential candidates answered questions asked by their opponent, the Tripolitan, and the student body. Tripolitan Chief Copy Editor Thomas Gleaton explains the importance of hearing from the students.
We get to be a voice for the students. We get to express some of the questions that students have to these candidates. We get to actually ask them about what they stand for. We get to ask them actually about what it is they're trying to do with their platform and what their platform means and what their platform means to them.
This debate, hosted by the Tripolitan, was the second debate of this executive election season. And between 2 debates, campaign posters, and posts to social media, students say they feel informed about this year's executive candidates.
I think it helps not only me be a more informed voter as somebody who pays attention to the SGA process, but it helps everybody as a whole say, you know what, that's the candidate I want to elect because, you know, I'm more informed about it. I think it's a good setup to get the information out.
Before this debate, I didn't know much about any of the other candidates except for the presidents. And so now, knowing who's running and what they stand for, it makes me feel like a much more informed voter. And I hope that in the future that more students will become more actively involved in attending these debates. I think it's very important for the student body to know what they're voting for.
SGA executive elections will be held on Wednesday, February 24th. Sarah Singletary, Troy, Trojan Vision News.
And on Wednesday, students made their choices among those candidates. Samantha Charles has the details from the SGA elections.
From multiple debates, speeches to campaigning, Troy University students came out to elect the new executive officers for the Student Government Association.
This year we had the TrojanVision Debate, which has been shared all over Facebook. And then this year the Drop introduced a new event, which was a live debate, which was held this past Monday. And then we've also, the different candidates have been going around to different organizations sharing their platform as well.
Students lined the halls of the Trojan Center to cast their ballots for who they thought was best fit for the following positions:
President, Vice President of Legislative Affairs, Vice President of Campus Activities, Director of Administration, and Director of Representation.
After months of campaigning, Election Day is finally here, and Troy students voiced their opinions and put their Trojan spirit to action today in the SGA election.
It's important for students to come out to vote because pretty much it's like just telling us like that we are a part of this and our voice counts on who we want to like help us do stuff with the school, like as homecoming, Greek week, even stuff for like football games and stuff.
It's our school and we make the choices and we elect people who are going to lead us, so we express our right to vote. So
the candidates elected will be sworn into office in a ceremony on April 12th. Samantha Charles, Troy, Trojan Vision News.
And the winners of the election were Olivia Melton for president, Andrew Deering for vice president for legislative affairs, Dorinda Wilkins for director of representation, Farrah Gaston for director of administration, and there will be a runoff for vice president for campus activities between Caitlin Smith and Sam Moody. Well, we're going to take a short break, but when we return, we'll get a rundown of events in the capital city from our reporters in the Montgomery News Bureau. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
This is DeKeys. She has her bachelor's degree from Troy University and is now pursuing her master's online to grow her career. Soon, she'll have a prestigious graduate degree from Troy, a proud public university that's been helping students achieve their career goals since 1887. Do what you love and be great at it. That's the warrior spirit. Learn more at troy.edu/workingwarrior.
So they say it's a man's world? I don't see anybody's name on it.
While they were doing their thing, we slowly changed ours.
Today, women can do anything men can do. And there's one thing we're even better at.
Now back to Troy Trojan Vision News Weekly.
Montgomery is the seat of government for the state, but there's much more going on in the capital city. As Haley Greathouse shows us from our Montgomery News Bureau, there's a great deal to learn about African American history, specifically the Civil Rights Movement.
February is Black History Month, and in Alabama, there are many historical sites to visit.
Everything happened here, from Montgomery to Selma to Birmingham, Tuskegee. Everything happened here, so it's the soul of, Black history.
One of the sites open to visitors is the Rosa Parks Museum in Montgomery. But you may be surprised to hear it's not all about Rosa Parks.
So we focus on the Jim Crow era. We focus on the Jim Crow laws and how they came about. You discuss Harriet Tubman, a few court documents.
One side of the museum is dedicated to the history leading up to the bus boycott, while the other side tells the story of Rosa Parks.
Well, Ms. Parks, again, was a very brave and strong woman, but she was also kind and gentle. Her major role was not to stir up any drama or mess, but all she wanted was equality.
The courage that she displayed, I think, was impeccable. Being that it's Black History Month, I definitely think that they should be inserted in history.
Behind me is a mural depicting the march to Selma. Across from me is the street where the Montgomery bus boycott took place. Rosa Parks, Martin Luther King Jr., and so many others are the reason we celebrate Black History Month. And the lessons that we learn from them can still be put into practice today.
And I think that's one thing we have to learn in society today. All we want is equal rights for everyone. Like you look about, gay marriages. They should be happy. It's almost compared to what this movement was. Maybe not been black and white, but it's all about equality and everyone having that right to be happy.
You can visit the Rosa Parks Museum 7 days a week. In Montgomery, Haley Greathouse, Troy Trojan Vision News.
The Alabama Archives is another place where someone can visit to learn a little bit about the history of Alabama. However, once a month, the Archives serves up a lesson during the lunch hour. Haley Wilkerson has that story from our Montgomery News Bureau.
Billy Singleton, chairman of the Alabama Aviation Hall of Fame and vice president of the Wright Brothers Maxwell Field Museum, spoke in Thursday's Food for Thought. Food for Thought occurs on the third Thursday every month, varying in speakers covering topics of Alabama history, and is free to the public.
The subject was early aerial experimenters in Alabama, and these experimenters were residents or natives of Alabama who actually conducted experiments into heavier-than-air flight in the years preceding the Wright brothers.
The Wright brothers developed the nation's first civilian flight school here in the capital city, and although the brothers were here for less than a year, they left a lasting impression. Such an impact that the city of Montgomery dedicated a park to the heroics of American aviation pioneers so that their legacy is always among us.
The first flight of a heavier-than-air machine over Alabama was made by Orville Wright on March 26, 1910 as part of that school. So they were here for 2 months, so we're very proud to be a part of that legacy.
The Wrights chose Montgomery to build the school due to the region's short winters, mild climate, and flat farmland. The establishment of the school marked the beginning of a noteworthy aviation heritage in Montgomery. It was further amplified by the arrival of military flight training at Taylor Field less than a decade later.
As the state has developed its aviation and aerospace industry, I think that's an important concept to keep in mind, that we were one of the early, if you will, innovators in this process. And so I'm really encouraged to see that we're developing that aerospace technology moving forward because we have such a historical legacy.
Next to North Carolina and Ohio, Alabama is one of the biggest in aviation history, with the capital being the first century of powered flight. In Montgomery, Rachel Wilkerson, Troy Trojan Vision News.
College students from all across the state were on Troy University's Montgomery campus last Friday to find out ways to try and fight hunger in Alabama. Deborah Bogart has the details from our Montgomery News Bureau.
How would you like no sales tax on groceries? Well, that was just one topic discussed at Friday's Hungry for Justice Student Poverty and Hunger Summit. This event was designed to bring college students from across the state together to discuss and encourage action to combat hunger and poverty.
We just have a collection of students from around the state of Alabama that are here learning about different policy issues, different actions and actors that are happening across the state to address hunger and poverty.
People get caught up in everything that happens on a federal level, not realizing necessarily that it's all at the state level where people are most affected by things. So I think that events like this kind of help raise the awareness and make people more aware that it's at the state level where you can really effectuate change.
While at the Hungry for Justice Summit, participants were able to attend breakout sessions that went into further detail on issues regarding hunger and poverty, such as human trafficking and Advocacy 101.
And that's where different statewide nonprofits, different local organizations can highlight some of the work that they're doing to provide services or programs, but also work towards changing policy relative to these issues.
The summit featured Dr. Robin O'Sullivan, a lecturer in the History and Philosophy Department on Troy's Dothan campus, and Senator Gerald Dial as keynote speakers. Dial said he used this platform to push for no sales tax, but to ultimately inspire the attendees to become advocates for the hungry and impoverished.
Well, I hope they learn that and they sit down and realize each one of them can make a significant difference. Each and every one of us can if we dedicate ourselves to it.
The free summit was presented by Troy University's Office of Civic Engagement and Alabama Possible. In Montgomery, Deborah Bogart, Troy, Trojan Vision News.
Many feel the issue of same-sex marriage in the United States was settled by the Supreme Court last year. However, that's not necessarily the case in Alabama, where probate judges are getting conflicting orders on same-sex couples, and many have gotten out of the marriage business altogether. From our Montgomery News Bureau, Christy Henderson talks to one of the few probate judges in the area still marrying same-sex couples.
Last summer, the United States Supreme Court ruled that same-sex couples could marry all across the nation. But when Alabama Chief Justice Roy Moore ordered probate judges to not issue gay marriage licenses across the state, it put the heart of Dixie behind America's constant growth. However, despite Moore's orders, Montgomery County probate judge Stephen Reed continued to abide the Supreme Court's ruling.
It just did not really fit with what the law is. He does not have the legal authority to do that. And to be specific, even more specific about it, the Supreme Court, while it may have judicial authority over probate courts to some degree, does not have any administrative authority over probate courts to any degree.
Recently, District Judge Callie Grenade struck down Alabama's ban on gay marriage in a federal ruling, and Reed shared how he felt now that all counties in Alabama can issue gay marriage licenses.
The United States Supreme Court issues a ruling, that's what it is. You don't have to like it, but you have to follow it. And it's no different than what we tell people in our courtrooms every day. You don't have to like the law, but you have to obey it. And so I think for judges not to do that, send a bad signal. But when we saw other counties come on board, it just validated what we knew previously.
Judge Reed says that Moore is more likely to face some type of punishment than he is.
If anything, I think Justice Moore is the one who may be facing some complaints from different organizations around the state, because those are the things that really keeps Alabama from growing and really being seen as a new South state that we'd really like to see ourselves become.
In the beginning, the Montgomery and Jefferson County probate judges were the only ones issuing gay marriage licenses in the state. Now, couples are able to be recognized legally in every county. In Montgomery, Christy Henderson, Troy, Trojan Vision News.
We're going to take another quick break, but when we return, we'll see how Troy students learned about the history of Troy from a Polish professor. Stay tuned, we'll be right back.
Did you know kids who play outdoors have healthier lungs?
Totally. I did. Did you know that boys that play with dolls make better husbands?
My son has lots of dolls.
But did you know terry cloth diapers breathe better? I did. Mm-hmm.
It's totally true.
Oh, yeah.
Did you know that strollers have the right of way on the sidewalk?
Yes. Yep, I did. Did you guys
Did you know that kids who eat breakfast have higher GPAs?
Yeah, I know.
Yeah. That's actually what I was going to say.
Did you know babies should never touch silver? It's really bad for them.
I knew that.
Did you guys know that statistically friendly kids have more friends?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's obvious.
Did you know most people think they're using the right car seat for their kid, but they're not?
Parents who really know it all know for sure that their child is in the right seat at the right age and size. Visit safercar.gov/the right seat to make sure your child is protected.
I'm putting that on my blog.
I just put it in mine.
Now back to Troy Trojan Vision News Weekly.
Immigration has become a big topic in the United States. It's one of the main issues to come up during the presidential race. On Tuesday afternoon, a group of experts discussed the topic in a forum on campus. Rachel Wilkerson has the story.
Tuesday afternoon in the Troy University Ballroom, a national immigration forum known as Bibles, Badges, and Business for Immigration Reform held an event in partnership with Troy Political Science Club to reach out to the community for comprehensive immigration solutions that will respect the law and help better our community.
So we'll be having a discussion on positive aspects of immigration and ways forward as far as bringing people together from different perspectives, a faith-based business and law enforcement. We talk with them as well about how to move towards immigration reform.
The forum constructs conversation within the audience about the issues of immigration, as it is a hot topic within today's society.
The conversation is very diversified, and it's a very culturally enhancing conversation for those who are interested in the study of immigration in our country.
This is a very important conference today because it's a very important subject. We have an opportunity in the United States right now to do something that we haven't in a long time, and that's to benefit people from the world as well as benefit ourselves.
There's a lot of controversy over immigration, and the question is there a solution?
We think there is, and we think it comes from working together, and we think it comes from not engaging in vitriol on both sides of the debate or demonizing different people, but actually looking at the human aspect of it and seeing how we're dealing with real people, real lives, real families, and how we can actually benefit each other in this.
Bibles, Badges, and Business will head to Atlanta Wednesday in its journey to establish a new accord on immigrants and America. Rachel Wilkerson, Troy Trojan Vision News.
On Wednesday, Troy students and faculty got the chance to discover the history of Troy and the Trojan culture by examining medieval literature. The Trojan spirit came alive in the Hall of Honor with the help of a visiting English professor who, though traveling all the way from Poland, knows Troy all too well. Ryan Renfro has the details.
My research about Trojan literature makes more sense here than anywhere else.
Agulonian University professor of English Dr. Władysław Witarisz visited the campus of Troy University earlier this week to share his vision of Trojan literature and to propose student opportunities between Troy and Polish universities. But even though he comes from overseas, his ties to Troy University are stronger than you would expect.
My link with Dr. Harold Kahler at Troy University dates back to the 1980s. We have been working together on a number of student exchanges and other international projects. We also have been working on scholarly projects devoted to Boethius, and truly it was Dr. Kahler who encouraged me to look at the Trojan texts some 15 years ago.
After walking through these double doors, Troy students and faculty opened the gates of rediscovery, and with the help of Professor Witarisz, brought the Trojan spirit to life and discovered what it truly means to be a Trojan.
People think of Trojans, they kind of have this idea of like the ideals we carry, the type of people we're going to be, and when we as students, we're at Troy University. People associate us with those Trojan ideals, whether or not they want to. So I think it's important to go back to that and think about how we can be brave and bold people that are leaders in the community and in the world, even in the little things.
Being a Trojan means being responsible. Being a Trojan means being heroic, but in a responsible manner.
Ryan Renfro, Troy, Trojan Vision News.
Visual arts took the spotlight last Friday at Troy University. Hundreds of aspiring artists were on campus for some art lessons and a little competition. Jenna Jajon has the details.
Over 400 middle and high school students from across Southeast Alabama were in Troy on Friday for the annual Trojan Art Day.
Trojan Art Day is in two parts, one event. It is a recruiting event for the Trojan Art Department. It brings students, let them get an idea of what is going on in the art department and work with the teachers. And it's also a way for the students to showcase their artwork. It's competition as well for us to send to a state competition that happens every year.
Outside of the competitive aspects of Art Day, the event gives the participants a chance to experience art education at the next level.
It's just a chance for them to just immerse themselves in art and what they love to do and different workshops in different areas that they're interested in, and they just kind of open up the campus here and invite us to come.
Gives them an opportunity to come in and be with college students, work in a college environment, and express themselves artistically.
While Troy's Art Day is a great way to visit the university and see its campus, more than that is a chance to experience everything that art has to offer.
There's several competitions: architectural drawing, progressive drawing competition. There's a sidewalk chalk competition that has to do with Youth Art Month. And then there's different workshops, printmaking, photography, chance to get into the lab and play around a little bit.
Beeson says that exposing art to students at this age could potentially have a long-term impact on their lives.
Because it only takes one person to tell you when you're a teenager that you can be an artist and that you already are in a lot of ways. And today just kind of could be that chance for somebody. They may not know that they're interested in it, so it's just a way to get a little taste. And that could, at this point in their lives, that could kind of put them on the track that they're going to be on for the rest of their lives.
Jenna Jajon, Troy, Trojan Vision News.
Take our last break. When we come back, we'll hear some offerings from our friends at Troy Public Radio. So don't touch that dial.
Save the Bears. Sign the petition. Go to helpbears.org. That's helpbears.org.
Now back to Troy Trojan Vision News Weekly.
Each week we take some time to hear some of the work done by our broadcast partners at Troy Public Radio. As we do each week, we'll get another sample of Talk of Troy, the student-produced newscast of Troy Public Radio. Let's take a listen.
It's the Talk of Troy. Voices and sounds from the campuses of Troy University. I'm Shanna Timms. Last night, the Theater and Dance Department opened their latest production, and as Kenya Taylor reports, it's not your typical play.
Jessie Grimm is a co-director of Our Vital Struggle, which she calls a mashup of different parts of other famous plays from writers such as Shakespeare, Tennessee Williams, and more.
He wanted something that would be really flexible and something that had a lot of give and take in it.
The works included are those that Graham and her co-director always wanted to stage. And she says the presence of some mature content is intentional.
I want them to be shocked. I want them to think. I guess I want them to have taken the journey with us.
Our Vital Struggle runs through Sunday, February 27th, and more information can be found at troytheater.org. For the Talk of Troy, I'm Kenya Taylor.
The Confucius Institute is bringing famed Chinese painter Chen Bailan to the Montgomery campus for an exhibition of her work. Speaking through translator Wei Yu, Bailan says her art is for an international audience.
I hope I'm going to create much more brilliant, wonderful works to people from all of the world.
At age 18, Bailan experienced an illness that left her legs paralyzed. She says that through painting, she has overcome life's challenges.
Practice painting opened my eyes to the world, feel the life is lovely and happy.
Chen Bailan's work will be on display in the Rosa Parks Museum through March 8th. I'm Shanna Timms, and you've been listening to The Talk of Troy, a production of Troy Public Radio.
Throughout the week, Troy Public Radio can be heard on 89.9 in Troy and Montgomery, 88.7 in Dothan, and 91.7 in Phoenix City. Well, before we go, we want to congratulate the crew here at Troy Trojan Vision for winning big at this year's Southeastern Journalism Conference Best of the South competition. The Hall School of Journalism and Communication total won 12 awards, the most ever. But among those awards, Troy Trojan Vision won this year included Best College Video Newscast for all of the crew here at Troy Trojan Vision, second place Best TV Journalist for Ryan Renfro, fourth place Best Hard News Reporter for Haley Greathouse, and Jordan Elston won the on-site anchoring competition. Congratulations to all who won. Well, that wraps up the show for this week, the last week of February 2016. Find out what's happening throughout the week. You can tune in to Troy Trojan Vision News at 5, 6:30, and 10:30, Monday through Friday. We hope you join us again next week for another edition of Troy Trojan Vision Weekly. Have a good week.